Danny. How old are you?
53.
And what do you do for a living?
I'm a mechanic,
What do you specialize in?
making money.
How long you lived on Staten Island?
45 years. I was born and raised, but only the time that I was in the military I wasn't here.
All right. And how many years have you been a mechanic?
53.
Wow. All right.
No, I've been a mechanic for 40 years.
Okay. So how old were you when you started?
I was young.
And when you first started, like, what was your first job?
Working in my brother's garage.
What'd you do there?
Break things.
All right. Try and talk to me a little bit more, and like, just if you think of something and you want to tell a story, just go ahead. Feel free.
Well, it all started when I was a mere lad. I picked up this book. It said Playboy on the front. So I ran to the woods, and there I was, in hand. Couldn't help myself. So here I am now.
All right. All right, Danny. How much money do you think is on Richmond Terrace?
Actually, well, a lot of people don't know this was one of the main ports during World War II when they used to do airplane parts and everything. Up by Miller Field also. And the bricks, you know, by Chrysler House and all that down in Tarletonville, it was a very big brick factory in Staten Island back in the day. But there's a lot of money on Richmond Terrace. If you look across the street, there's all the cement works and there's billions. There's billions.
So you would say absolutely there's billions of dollars down
No
there.
doubt about it.
Even with all the rundown properties and abandoned buildings and things like that,
Absolutely.
somebody owns all that stuff.
Yes.
So,
Well, New York, everything's expensive.
yeah.
You know what I mean?
So, what would you say has changed about Richmond Terrace in the last 10 years?
Besides the street getting worse? No, just the clientele, really. You know? It seems it's getting harder for people to do things that used to do easier, like fix their cars, keep up with their payments. I believe because of the food and everything is becoming so expensive. You know what I mean?
So, do you think people fix their cars as often as they used to?
No.
Why do you think that is, besides the
Cars are made
food?
different. And then everything's set up for the cars to be leased.
Yeah.
It's made for the car dealerships, for the big companies. It's so cheap to buy a car now. And people didn't have the cars. And once they did the OOPS cars with Obama and turning in all the cars, you know what I mean? That's when they did all the OOPS cars and they were giving you the cash for clunkers. That's what made it go downhill because a lot of cars that would have been fixed in historical cars were actually cut up because the scrap went so high. You know what I mean? People were getting so much money back for the car that it was, you know. What used to go buy the car parts or what used to be sitting in the woods, people would trade it in because they were getting money for it, even if they were picked up by a tow truck. You know?
Yeah. So seriously, what happened? So, what do you think is going to change in the next 10 years on Richmond Terrace?
What do I think is going to change? I think the property is going to get cleaned up.
Yeah.
I think the wheel is going to bring in a lot more money. You know, even if you look at England, when they put up the wheel, the property went up 60%. Also, it raises the property tax and everything, but it's going to bring in more clientele. Like it seems to be getting more money.
Yeah.
You know, it used to be really bad in Richmond Terrace, but now it's cleaned up a lot. They did a good job in cleaning it up, I'll tell you that.
Do you think the landlords are going to keep the properties, or do you think they'll sell out if they're offered money?
Well, that's up to the people. If they got the money. A lot of them want to sell, but a lot of them want to stay. It's the same. That ain't going to change. It's going to be half and half.
Yeah.
Excuse me.
Yep. Do you think you could be staying here on Richmond Terrace or not?
No.
Why not?
Because I want to move south to where the warmer climate is. Instead, the cost of living in New York is it's brutal. You know, when you own a business, everybody thinks you're a millionaire, and all your money goes to bills. You're happy if you make your bills. It's day to day. You know, everybody wants their car fixed free and wants it yesterday. That seems to be the MO. You know?
So what's the difference between up here and down south? We just continue working down there?
The weather. It's warm.
All right.
To be honest, you know, I just want the warmer climate.
All right.
And the taxes, everything's different. It's cheaper to live. You don't make as much money, but you don't need as much. You know, my friend bought a house in Georgia for $200,000. That down here, no doubt about it, would be $2 million. Right there, 5 bedrooms, $200,000, it's a mansion.
You can't buy a container over here.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Can you tell us your name, please?
Ben DiCostanzo.
And how old are you?
I am 54.
And what do you do for a living?
I am the owner and president of Atkins Auto Sales.
And what do you do here?
We are a salvage yard, auto salvage yard. We
Okay.
sell used parts, we take in scrap cars, we process them for scrap, and so forth.
All right. Where does your scrap go usually?
The crushed cars go to a facility in Jersey City called Metals Management. It's a Sims company, world-renowned company, worldwide, publicly traded on the market. Other stuff as far as aluminum, brass, copper, used batteries, catalytic converters, aluminum wheels, radiators, like I say, go to REM, a scrap in South Jersey.
Okay. How long have you been here?
I've been here since 1982. My father was here since 1973.
And how many square feet is your property?
Acreage, we are currently sitting on 5 acres for just the salvage yard area.
Okay. So, given the changes that are taking place down in St. George, where do you see your neighborhood in the next 5 to 10 years?
Well, it's been, it's got a nice little upswing going on right now. There's been a lot of projects that have been started and somewhat are still in progress of being built and finished along the terrace, starting from the ferry and coming in this direction, which is north. Myself, I'm not really too sure. I mean, if the right deal comes along for someone to purchase the property and do a project on their own, that would be fine. They can buy the property and have my blessing. As far as business goes, it's not really the same industry as it used to be in years past.
I spoke to somebody else and they said that a lot of people are leasing cars and getting rid of them and they don't fix them anymore, and that hurts you guys a lot down here.
That's very true. The automobile industry has changed drastically in the last 20 to 25 years. There's been a downward spiral as far as people buying used parts. There's been a competitive edge with the aftermarket parts, and of course now with the internet stronger than ever and everybody walking around with all of these, fancy phones, they can look for stuff right on the internet and save $5, $10, $20 here and there and get free delivery, and nobody doesn't buy any used parts anymore for that reason.
When you originally started this business, when did you see yourself retiring?
Well, I would have liked to have been retired by now, but again, with the way the business has, fallen on some tough times, coupled with how we were affected by Sandy, which, as you know, we're right on the water. The Kill Van Kull overflowed and came onto our property and submerged the entire yard, 6 to 8 feet of water. Salt water, as anybody knows, is a detriment to anything it touches, especially since most of my stuff is all metal. We had to get rid of it all and didn't get any relief from any insurance companies, and basically had to start from scratch going back from 2012. But again, to answer your question, I would have liked to have been retired by now and maybe doing something different. But, I'm still here and I still enjoy coming, and, I have a good relationship with the clientele that comes in, and it's all fun. It's all good.
Okay. So, do you think that the property owners around you are going to change within the next 5 years? Do you see people pulling out and selling properties already?
I do see a lot of parcels that have been up for sale for quite some time. I do see people holding out. You have all sorts of interest for any sort of industry or any sort of recreational businesses coming in. Some people buying parcels just for inventory. With the subject of the wheel coming, and with the North Shore Railroad supposedly up and running, two projects that I honestly don't think that I'll ever see in full swing. I don't think I'll be alive when this North Shore Railroad is moving. There has been a lot of talk that it would be. It would bring a lot of business and how should we call it, a different sort of vibe to the area if the North Shore Railroad was ever up and running again. But the wheel, I mean, I'm sure you've seen it in the paper. There's been some problems with that over the years, and right now it's at a standstill.
How do you see the construction of the new bridge as a change to the environment and doing business here?
Well, that's a great question. The roadway of the bridge was actually raised, I believe, 80 feet to allow some larger ships to come in, with the idea of furthering enhancing the mercantile exchange as far as importing and exporting materials go to the area. And I've seen some big ships come in, but do I see a direct, raise in anything so far? Not yet. I mean, they still got a little more work to do on the bridge that they're actually working on as we speak. But I think that's a positive and a plus for the area. You got more trucking, you got more shipping and receiving, of course. There has been a lot of talk of exporting different items. I always have people coming in looking to export parts and some cars to get them out overseas. Africa is a big customer. Well, they send a lot of people here to buy. Just recently had someone from the Mideast, another guy that wants to send some stuff to Jordan, get a couple of Asian folks that come in once in a while. So the trade has been pretty good, but it hasn't really ignited yet, if you want to call it that, for the lack of a better term.